expectations, I really wonder what people's experiences versus their expectations. Like, how much have you traveled here?
A bit.
Yeah.
I lived in New York I've lived in New York at 2 points in my life. Sort of one for 6 months, one for sort of 7.5 months, and that was great. And then living here, and then the only other place I've really been is like Florida. You know what I mean? Going to like Disney World
with the kids.
So no, when I was a kid. So
oh, really?
I haven't been back for a very long time. But when I was like sort of 16, 17.
It's funny because even when I think of like just generalizing like Florida as a place, it's sort of like there's 100 cities, there's 100 different types of place there.
Well, that's the thing. So I've been to Orlando. I haven't been anywhere else.
Oh, you've got to really experience Florida.
Oh, I've really seen. Yeah. I really feel like I know it as a place.
Go up north to the southern. As you go north in Florida, it actually becomes more southern.
Yes.
in disposition.
But the weirdest thing about when you arrive. I can remember so vividly the first time I came to LA. I came here.
How old were you?
I was, what would I have been, like 27?
For show business?
Well, what happened was I had gone through quite a bad breakup with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And my agent had said, they want to put you on tape for this thing. And I was so sort of lost.
Do you remember what it was?
At home. It was, I do. It was the Jay Roach film with Zach Galifianakis and Paul Rudd that was based on the French movie.
Was it the Institution movie?
No.
I don't remember.
No, it was really famous, based on a French film. Dinner for Schmucks.
Oh, right. Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't go see that movie just based on the billboards.
Sure, I didn't go and see it, but I did audition
title.
for it. Yeah,
right.
but at the time, when it's
big
like
deal.
Paul Rudd, Steve Carell, Jay Roach, who I love, and I read it, and anyway, I was like, I'm not going to get this. This is a part that's written for Zach Galifianakis, clearly.
Oh, was that part?
Oh, 100%. And I was like, he should 100% play this role. No, they want to see everyone. They're really like that.
They brought you in to pressure Zach.
I don't know that that's true, but I went and auditioned. I said to Jay Roach at the time, I was like, so you're just seeing people in case Zach Galifianakis can't do this, right? And he was like, no, absolutely not. About 2 years after that, 3 years after that, he came to see me in a play in New York and had forgotten that we'd met.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't remember, I came in and auditioned for you, and you told me, and I said to you, you're seeing people in case Zach Galifianakis can't do this. And he went, yeah, that's what was happening, yeah. But he had forgotten all about it. But anyway, I came to LA.
You're shattered.
I was not in the best state of mind, and I came to LA, and I remember saying to him, so where's the middle? Where's the middle bit?
Where the center?
Where's the central thing? And when you realise there isn't one, and when you realise essentially Los Angeles isn't really a city, it's a collection of disparate towns, then you just go, okay, well, I'm just going to find the town where me and my family will be happiest in. And so now I feel I'm very much enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
But you're a beach guy, so you decided on the beach.
Well, I don't know if I am a beach guy, but my wife would like us to be a beach family. I don't think I'm a beach guy. Like,
do you not get a lot of beach in Britain?
Well, you don't get a lot of sun in Britain.
I know. But there's water. You're surrounded by water a bit, right?
Yeah, but there's no sun, so it's just cold.
It's a sad beach.
It's a coldness you never experience here. Like the other day when it rained here, when it rains here, I am fascinated by the whole place.
People freak out. It might as well be snow.
It's amazing how people are like sliding. Their cars are sliding. People they don't understand what to do with their wipers on the car. There's like the news.
Yeah.
Just becomes all about rain.
Sure.
Oh my God, it's raining. Stay in.
Wash away.
Evacuate your house. It's like, what are we doing? Here, if we had the rain that you had here at home, I promise you, my dad would be like, we should have a barbecue. This weather is
perfect.
This weather is terrific.
Nice to cook outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up in Britain, though?
I grew up in a very small town called High Wycombe, which is in between. If you head out of London towards Oxford, it's about an hour outside of London.
Yeah.
In a valley.
Yeah, so it's pretty.
It's surrounded by prettiness. The actual town of High Wycombe is it's painfully ordinary. I mean, and I, you know, it is
like you could drive through it and not notice anything.
The high street is the same as any other high street in any other town in Britain. It's
How'd you end up there?
Well, my dad was in the Royal Air Force, so was a musician and was based in a place called Uxbridge, which was sort of close to London. And he was very adamant that he didn't want us to grow up on the Air Force base. He didn't think that was a particularly...
So he was a lifer?
He was in it. Well, he was a musician for 26 years.
In the Air Force. What does a musician in the Air Force do?
Well, they play at all the big ceremonies and things like that.
So even of all sizes, like even if it's a smaller ceremony, he's on contract in a way.
Yeah, you're in the band. But then he went to the first Gulf War. What does
he play?
Saxophone.
Brought his sax?
Yeah, no, they went as stretcher bearers.
The musicians did.
Yeah, they went as stretcher bearers, and they didn't, you know, nothing really happened, but they were there. It was incredibly traumatic for us, but my dad was like, they were essentially just sat around not really doing anything.
So that was when the coalition was formed and Britain stepped in. They sent some musicians down to carry stretchers, and the war was sort of a bust in a way.
Well, the war didn't really. I mean, nothing. Like, it was so strange because I can remember my dad.
It's horrible.
Saying,
they bombed the shit out of the place, but there was not a ground war really.
There wasn't. Well, where my dad was stationed, he was in Bahrain, and nothing really happened. And he said he can remember that someone got appendicitis. And all of these medics just rushed into this, you know, go, you know, like he's got appendicitis, it's gonna be okay. But
there was a panic in the family, huh? Because he was like,
it was horrible for us. He was away like 6 months. I remember it so vividly.
And how old were you?
Like 11.
So in your mind, it was just he's gone to war.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's so strange if I think back to that time where it was just inconceivable. Like my dad said when he signed up to the Air Force.
Yeah.
It was inconceivable to him that there would even be another war.
Ever.
That war would ever be something that we would do ever again.
That was optimistic.
Well, that's the thing. And then you think about it now, and you just think, well, I don't know when there won't be. You know?
Well, they've changed the business model of war.
It's so strange. Like, you're not really fighting countries anymore. You're fighting, you know...
ideologies.
It's very, very
You just throw
strange.
a coalition together and... You know, that's how the business operates now. Let's put a small coalition together of a bunch of people from different armies and go deal with this problem.
Yeah, I can't really, get my head around it. If I think about it too long, I really can't.
What kind of sax player was he? Was he good?
Jazz. He's a big jazz sax player. So.
Was he good?
Yeah, really good.
Is he still around?
Oh, yeah. He's played when he came over, when we launched the show, he played with the band a couple of nights.
Oh, yeah?
And he absolutely loved it. I've never really seen him as happy, because now he's a Christian book salesman.
What?
He sells the Bible and Christian CDs and things like
door
that.
Door to door or what?
No, to Christian bookshops around
That's very
Britain.
Specific.
Very, very specific. And you know,
how did he get into that racket?
Well, he is him and my mother are both Christians, and we grew up in the Salvation Army. And then,
what does that mean?
The Salvation Army.
I know what the Salvation Army is, but here it's sort of where you drop your clothes off that you don't want anymore.
Well, this is the common misconception that the Salvation Army is a charity, and actually it's a church first and a charity second. So
was it started in Britain?
Yes, a man called William Booth started the Salvation Army in Britain.
What was the angle? So it's an actual church.
The angle was that this guy William Booth saw that basically that churches were becoming elitist places that weren't welcoming the poor or the marginalised or people around town, and so he started a new movement where they would wear a uniform and they would march through the town, and he would say, all are welcome here and all should come here and be and are welcome in this church, and they would go and feed the homeless.
Had a church?
They had a church, and he said this will also be a charity where people will go and feed the homeless. Bring your clothes. We'll clothe people. We'll do things like that, and that's where
So it was actually right. It was well-intentioned, sort of honest Christianity. By the book, for all people, take care of the poor.
Yeah, well, that's what it was, and then oddly, that's kind of why my parents left recently. They left when I was about 18, 19. They left the Salvation Army because they didn't feel that was what it was anymore. They felt like it had become again, quite an elite. Like, my mother's a social worker, my sister's a social worker, my dad's a Christian book salesman, so they have a very much a.
So they're helping people.
They want to, and I think, yes, they left the Salvation Army and joined a church, which was actually meets in a school at the end of our road, because they feel like churches shouldn't be. They feel like church should be places that help people, I think.
That's interesting. My sense of the Salvation Army is that they're ringing bells on the street.
Yeah.
At Christmas. Sometimes there's a Santa involved.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're
Christmas caroling, I would go and do that every Saturday. Saturday morning, I would go and play the trumpet in a little town near us called Marlow, and we would stand on a roundabout in between a junction. Yeah. And just play Christmas carols.
That was your introduction into show business?
Well, the Salvation Army was my introduction into show business. It didn't feel like much. It didn't feel like it was show business in the middle of a turning circle, just playing Silent Night on a trumpet.
How many kids were usually involved in that?
It would be like about 7 or 8 of us.
So it's sort of sad. It was a sad.
Oh, it was tragic. And you'd take you'd take a cup of tea with you, and you'd put your mouthpiece in the tea because it was so cold. You were worried that. I mean, I just don't even. If looking back now, it was actually torture.
You were doing God's work, man.
Well, were we? I don't know.
So, that's interesting because I don't know that. Of course, I didn't know that about the Salvation Army, but they've always been. There's something about practical Christianity that's sort of impressive, as opposed to just sort of like passive Christianity. You belong to a church; it's a community thing, it's a social thing, but they seem like their hearts are in the right place.
Well, it's a weird thing. My dad always says whenever I sort of talk to him about various different things, he just says he says you have to remember that churches are groups of people, and wherever there are groups of people, there are going to be huge mistakes. And he just says, and he just says, yeah. I mean, like sometimes I'll say to him, what if this is all what if this is just not true in any way? Right? Religion,
sure,
just not true.
Now, is this a conversation you had last week?
We've had it a few times, and I go, what if this is just not, like, you die, and you get wherever you're going, and it just wasn't the case. Yeah. None of this. Everything.
Or nothing happened.
Everything you've believed in, nothing.
Yeah.
I go, how are you going to feel?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, do you know what? He goes, I've had a great life.
Uh-huh.
He goes, I'm proud of all 3 of my children. I'm proud of the relationship I've got with your mother. I've travelled. I've done good, and I've lived the life I'm proud of. And I've lived the life I've wanted to live. And then he goes, but what if I'm right? And you get there? He goes, spend a bit of time thinking about that.
He just turns it around.
For a split second, you do go,
oh
yeah. I don't know.
But that's like sort of perfect in terms of, but I think that having a righteous life and being able to own that and take responsibility for it and be kind of satisfied, it's such a tricky thing. It's a very difficult thing.
Well, also, I think the biggest trick is, like that there are many people who will talk about being Christians and talk about church and faith. And when you just scratch past the surface, there is very little of their life which is remotely Christian in any way. If anything, they're just joining a club. Whereas, like whenever people say to me about my parents, your dad's a Christian, but you say they're Christians. And I go, no, yeah, but they're good Christians. Yeah. Like, they're really nice. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They're really cool with whatever you want to do.
Right.
There's no sense of, and I'm very proud of them for that there's not any form of judgment or, wanting to impress any of their sorts of
but also, it seems that one way or the other, your entire family, I mean, I'm not outside of you, perhaps you've framed your particular trajectory as service, but it seems...
Well, no, is the answer, but yes.
But it seems like they lead lives of service.
I hope, yes, I think so.
I mean, social workers?
Yeah, very definitely. My mum, being a social worker, my younger sister being a social worker.
That's an insane job, dude. It's a relentless...
crazy, and it's thankless, and it's painful, and I didn't realise growing up quite how quite what my mum's life was when she was going to work and then coming home, and then just, you know, me just moaning about what we're having for dinner or whatever.
And she's just spent the day dealing with drug addicts and domestic abusers.
Yeah,
and
taking children into care and separating children from sisters from brothers in families where they're worried that the father may be this, that, you know, it is just a different.
When did you gain the appreciation? When did it sort of dawn on you that, like, oh my God?
Well, I remember I'll tell you what, one thing I do remember is our school. We had we do have this thing. I don't know if this happens at school here. A thing called the Harvest Festival.
No, that does not happen here.
It's ridiculous, right?
What is it? Maybe something like it happens.
It's a harvest festival where basically you have to bring in like tins of soup and tuna fish. Or something,
we get that.
And you come in, whatever. And anyway, and the Harvest Festival this year, and we were doing what we were going to do in honour of the Harvest Festival. We're going to walk around our little village in the school in costume. And so different people said, oh, you guys are going to be cows, and you guys are going to be sheep. And I was put in a group, like 6 of us, as squirrels, right? You guys are going to be
another
squirrels.
Show business story.
Yes, well, and I'm about sort of 7, 8 at this time. Squirrels.
Yeah.
So I do that thing that you do at school, and I just came home and went, hey, Mum, in 2 weeks' time, the Harvest Festival, we're doing this thing, and I need to be a squirrel, okay? And Mum's like, yeah, okay, got it.
She's got to make the costume.
I presume that my saying that means that my mum knows exactly what to do and build a squirrel costume.
Yeah.
So Sunday night, before the Monday, I come home and go, hey, Mum, what's the deal on this squirrel costume? And her eyes looked in a way that just said, oh my goodness, I have no idea. I'm suddenly ringing bells.
Right.
So there's nothing.
No
shops are open. It's 8 p.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I went to school in a brown jumper, a brown sweater, a pair of my sister's brown leggings.
Like tights.
Yeah. My regular sneakers. And then my mum stuffed cotton wool and 2 pairs of rolled up jeans into a pair of her tights and safety pinned it on my ass. That was it. That was my squirrel costume. So I just basically looked like I had a huge turd just hanging off me while I'm wearing a pair of skin-tight leggings.
Yeah.
I get to school and there's some kids have got like wire, bushy tails that are up. They've got like paws, makeup, everything. I had nothing. Zero. Nothing. To the point it was that tragic that even the bullies were like, oh, his mum has really done him over there. His mum has just... So, and I remember, so we walk around the town, it all splits open. So as it walks back, I've got a torn pair of tights hanging off my ass. I'm holding 2 pairs of jeans under my arms, and there's just balls of cotton wool all just following me on the floor. And I saw my mum, who had come home from work and was stood on the road. And she looked so sad. And I can remember, I got really upset when I got back to school. Like, so embarrassed. And I remember the teacher saying, you will realise one day what your mum has done today. And you'll realise the work that she does. And this won't be a thing. She was wrong. It very much is. It scarred me for life. But, you know, it does play on your mind.
Well, it's interesting when you have these. You don't quite see your parents as people for a long, sometimes forever. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly, my having children has made me realise. You know, I just go, oh my goodness, you really.
It's a chore.
Yeah. Like, wow.
And you've got 2?
I have 2 children. My son is 4 and my daughter's 11 months. Yeah.
Oh, you got a baby, so you're not even sleeping really.
We are now. She's sleeping through, but we moved to America when she was 5 weeks old. So.
Oh my God. She's like fresh out of the oven there.
Yeah, 100%, and just tough, like, and then just trying to launch the show and things like that. But it was,
Well, let's go back there. So your parents, I mean, I have to assume that on some level that your father was a musician. He had dreams.
Well, I think my dad's dreams mainly were to get out of the house that he was growing up in, mostly. He joined the Air Force. Yeah, it wasn't good at all, and joined the Air Force when he was 16.
Was he from a big city?
No, he was from Stoke-on-Trent in the Midlands.
Yeah.
So, right in the middle of Britain is where he's from,
Everything sounds like Hobbit.
Well, it is. Well, he was even from, I'm saying Stoke-on-Trent, he was actually from, and you'll like this one, Uttoxeter.
Ah,
yeah,
nice.
Which does sound like it's somewhere.
It sounds terrific.
Yeah, down in Middle Earth.
Maybe evil. Maybe there's a battle of good and evil going on there.
Mr. Frodo, we got to go through Uttoxeter. Come on, let's do it.
You weren't in any of those movies, were you?
I wasn't. I did audition for Sam Gamgee's. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had 4 auditions.
How did you come upon performing?
I just
because you weren't a great squirrel, and that wasn't your fault.
Just terrible squirrel. I just don't remember a time. I honestly don't remember a time where it wasn't what I wanted to do. I cannot remember. I didn't want to be a soccer player. I didn't want to be.
You love soccer, though.
I do, but I mean, luckily that was never something that I wanted to do. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do. There was just nothing else. I just wanted to perform and show off, really.
What was your original sort of idea? Like, did you sing?
I just wanted to do it. I wanted to do it all. I loved singing. I loved dancing. I loved acting. I love sort of showmanship, if you like.
What was the first time you did it?
Well, I remember I used to do impressions.
Who'd you do?
Well, no one. People like Michael Barrymore and Cilla Black, who you wouldn't know.
I don't, but I mean, but it doesn't mean I don't have a lot of fans in England.
Yes, or like Bruce Forsyth. Hey, good game.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, and the audience would go nice. And so I would do that.
I don't know who that is, but I enjoyed that impression a lot.
And I would do a lot of that, and
at school.
At school, at the Salvation Army, on a Sunday, I would do little bits.
But would you do in front of people? You'd be like, "Now here's my son." Your mom would, and you do it in front of the audience at Salvation Army, or?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I honestly can't put my finger on like when or a time. I just cannot remember a time when I didn't want to do this. And I can remember we would have this careers lady come into our school, where she would talk about careers and what you're going to do and things. And I would say, I'm going to be an actor. And she'd say, well, no, you'd like to be an actor, but you've got to have something to fall back on. And I'd say, well, no, because if you're just contemplating any form of
just a
failure,
hobby. Yeah.
like this is what I'm going to do.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about it like that. Because like I always sort of, I know that you're compelled. And you get it in your head, and that's what you're going to do. And some people, for whatever reason, have the fortitude to throw their life away and do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. But I never really. I always thought, like, if you have a plan B, you're just a hobbyist, or you're. But to frame it sort of like, well, that's actually setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Well, I also think it depends on what you think, what you consider to be making it.
Yeah.
Like. For me, like, just the doing it is the reward.
That's
true?
True?
It. Just yeah. Like, whether it's like I feel like if you say you want to be an actor,
yeah,
and you want to be an actor and you can eat,
yeah,
and you can live,
yeah,
then that's it. Like you've done it.
You're earning an honest dollar in a way.
Well,
making a living.
Just if you can get by and act,
yeah.
Like, then you're just one of the lucky ones.
Right.
You just don't have to, because if it's something that you truly love doing, then you're never really in a position where you're just, I don't know, working as an insurance salesman with a dream of being an actor, because you think, well, and that's the thing, I think.
But that's funny because, like, sometimes, given what I've gone through, I mean, obviously our careers are much different. But, when I hear people that say that, like, oh, I always wanted to do that, there's part of me that thinks, like, you're probably lucky you didn't embark. Like it's not that I envy their stability, but there's something about living with the yearning or the heartbreak of not pursuing a dream, but having an okay life that as you get all along in this business and you see how heartbreaking it can be for some people, where you're like, you might have made the right choice. Yeah,
absolutely. But because also you do have to be talented, and that's the truth. You do have to have an ability to do it. So if you've got an ability to do it, like I just always believe that, and maybe stupidly and foolishly, that true talent, raw talent, absolute talent, will always get a shot.
I like to believe
whether
that
it works out or not, whether the stars align after that moment, who knows? But like actual raw talent will always get a chance.
Right, if it doesn't destroy itself before it gets its opportunity.
Well, there is that. Yeah,
and also like I think that that at some point as a talented person you have to realize what your talents are. I think that helps. That like I know what I can do, and I know what I might not be able. I know what I'm right for. And what I can handle.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, because and that can be quite a hard thing at times
to learn.
To go, okay, of course, I'd love to be Daniel Day-Lewis, but I don't know if I've got the necessary intensity to really fully commit 13 hours a day to being President Lincoln. But at the same time, I don't know that he would be able to do this over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
sure.
you just got to go.
I like that the second half of it is like, he couldn't do it.
He couldn't. He couldn't
host a talk show.
He couldn't do a sketch with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I'd love to see him. How much would you love to see Daniel Day-Lewis in a comedy?
It'd be great.
Because I just think he'd be amazing.
Did you grow up looking up to that guy? Like who were your guys?
Well, of course. The big one for me was a guy I don't know if you'd have heard of, but he is just. For my money, one of the greatest comedy actors I can remember seeing is a man called Ronnie Barker, who was in a sketch duo called The Two Ronnies. He then did. He had a hit rate which was phenomenal. He was in The Two Ronnies, which was at the time the biggest sketch show on television, and then he did he also had a sitcom called Porridge, which was written by Dick Clement and Ian LaFrenne, which was just, gobsmackingly brilliant sitcom.
Ronnie Barker's his name?
Ronnie Barker. And then he was also in another sitcom called Open All Hours, where he and was like astonishing. And then he just quit and ran an antique shop.
I have respect for that.
He just went, I'm done, actually. I'm actually done. I don't. He opened an antique. He was interested in antiques. And he opened an antique shop, and that was it. And then,
did you go to the antique shop?
No, because he died quite a while ago. But he was almost got coaxed out of retirement by Trevor Nunn to play Falstaff in Henry V at the National, which, if I think about it, might be the most dream casting I could ever imagine. But him I looked up to. I was really a huge fan of his. Rowan Atkinson, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I saw Jim Carrey the other day in a Whole Foods, and I don't remember the last time that I just lost my shit.
Yeah.
Over something. I genuinely couldn't. He was walking towards me, and I just froze in a way that clearly Jim Carrey is used to seeing people freeze. And he went, "Hey, man," and I went, "I just think you're amazing." And then he walked off, and he was in the queue, and I was going to my wife. She was like, "You okay?" I was like, "It's Jim Carrey." And she was like, "All right, but hold it together. He's right. He's literally 8 feet away from you." And I was going, and I actually went to her, "I don't care. That's Jim Carrey," and pointed in his face, and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" But
did he know you?
Well, there was an air of, "Oh, I've seen your face before." I don't think he would have ever thought, "Oh, there's James Corden."
Right.
I don't think he thought that, but I think he greeted me in a way that was as if to say, "Oh, I
You do a
recognise
thing.
your face
Yeah.
from a thing.
Yeah.
And, but like, he was...
Was that disappointing? Like, I do a...
No, it wasn't at all. I never expect anyone to have seen a second of our show.
But that's sort of weird, because the difference between you and me in that situation would be like, I would be like, hey, do you have any interest in maybe talking? I do a thing. You didn't.
Well,
think...
yeah, but then, like, I think if I had a podcast like you do now, then because this is such an informal atmosphere, this
Right.
is such a nice thing to do.
Right.
I don't know that this is such a joyously unpressurized environment.
Right.
And actually, saying to someone, do you want to come on the Late Late Show on CBS
Yeah.
is a very, very different question.
That's true.
Whereas actually you saying, I have a podcast, which is hugely popular.
Right.
The President of the United States came on it, and I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
There's an air of, oh, wow. You'd like to talk to me? That's amazing. And I don't know that happens on a talk show that's on, 4 nights
Okay,
a
so
week.
which Whole Foods?
It was Brentwood. Brentwood Whole Foods. Don't go back. I've been every night.
Yeah.
Wearing a Late Late Show with James Corden t-shirt. I haven't seen him.
Have you tried to get him on?
No, I don't.
But you have bookers, just say,
Of
look,
course. But I'm not going to go, can you try and book Jim Carrey? I saw him in Whole Foods last night.
Why not?
Well, I'd write to him first. I mean, that's what we've done with, like, the sort of, the bigger people that we've had on the
You
show.
write to him personally?
Well, we like, to get, like, Stevie Wonder and stuff like that, we just, that sort of mission started back in, like June 5th.
Right, so the bookers start reaching out.
Well, yeah, or we reached out and we knew someone who knew someone, and just things like that,
But so you book your show much the way I book mine. That's hilarious.
Pretty much, yeah. Well,
So
no, because then there's other we have an amazing booking department, but like sometimes when
Well, I
you're
use
going
the-
after like Stevie Wonder,
But I use bookers. But I mean,
Yeah.
have you ever had that situation where they say, "Could you write a personal letter?" I think it would make a difference if you reach out personally.
and it's still a no. That's the worst one. Honestly,
The gracious letter.
This
Hi.
would make a real difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a no on that. Maybe next time.
Oh, it's not what it used to be. Show business. So, did you go to acting school?
I didn't. No, I was at. I left school. I was 16, and I went to college for a year to do a performing arts BTEC thing.
What's that?
And
Well,
then,
BTEC, what is that?
It's like a national diploma. So the idea is you would do that,
Mm-hmm.
then go to apply for drama school, go to drama school, get an agent.
Oh, right.
But I I had signed up with like a local. I used to go to an after school stage school in High Wycombe, where they had a real great time. I mean, it's an amazing stage school now, and is a much bigger thing than when I was there. But there was a little period where there was myself, and then a few years below me was Eddie Redmayne, and then a few years below him was Aaron Johnson, the actor Aaron Ted Johnson. So we were, and like like Eddie and I would be in like these sort of end of year things where I would sing like "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat," and then Eddie would sing like "We're Walking in the Air" from the Snowman and stuff. And and so I was in this BTEC National Diploma, and I got offered a part in a musical in the West End that I auditioned for called Martin Guerre, that was written by the guys who wrote Les Miserables and Miss Saigon. And
How'd they find you?
be in the course, I was with this stage school, and they had an agency, so I spent pretty much my whole school life between the age of like 12 and 16 just auditioning for anything that I could audition for, and I didn't get one job.
So they had an agency that worked with the company.
So it was part of the stage school.
Oh,
yeah.
And now, when you saw Eddie Redmayne as a kid, were you
Yes.
like, that guy's good?
Well, he was great. I mean, the greatest thing I could say about Eddie is he feels he feels like the same person that he was then. Like he
looks like he's probably the same age.
But he's unbelievably warm and generous, and
Did you see that movie?
of course, yeah. I mean, he's astonishing, and I think his new movie is going to be amazing too.
What's the new- Oh, yeah.
the Danish girl. He just looks incredible in it. He's a unbelievable.
He's more.
talent.
Is he more along the lines of who we were just talking about?
Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah, kind of, right?
Well, I think there is a yes.
Yeah.
Without question, there is an element of my theory on acting is I think that there are two types of actors in the world, and that's it. There are only two actors in the world, and there are aliens and there are humans.
Yeah.
And neither are better.
Right.
Genuinely.
Sure.
Neither are better. There is no better
Right.
in this. We just watch them in different ways. So your aliens are, Daniel Day-Lewis, Mark Rylance,
Meryl Streep.
Ralph Fiennes, where you look and you go, I don't know how they're doing that.
Meryl Streep,
this is
right?
amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
You go, well, she might be one of the few who cross over, but
okay. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
but you go, you look at them on a pedestal and go, this is astonishing to me. I don't know how they're doing that.
Yeah.
And then there are actors who, whoever they're playing and whatever they're doing, are representing us, the audience.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman
Sure.
is a great example of someone who is astonishing and amazing, and yet finds a humanity
Right.
which you always is representing.
Can't hide it.
Yeah, you. And so you can watch like Mark Rylance or Benedict Cumberbatch playing Hamlet, and then you can watch one of my favourite actors in the world, an actor called Simon Russell Beale, with the same text. And one you're watching going, oh my goodness, I don't know how this is happening. And the other one going, oh, well, that's me up there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
And I think Eddie is an alien.
Alien.
Yeah.
And you are a human.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
It's just what I've always thought, and I don't think there's any better or worse. It's just the way that Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes, astonishing actor, unbelievable. But watch him in Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem at home. You know?
Yeah. Well, he's not. It's interesting because a lot of those people are not. They're not leading men in the way that they're not thought of for a romantic comedy. They're not. They do something larger than life.
Yes.
Yeah, and something that like you said, is unexplainable.
It's a transformation that you can't imagine you would ever be able to undertake.
Johnny Depp,
Fassbender.
I think.
Johnny Depp, same. Michael, Fassbender, same.
But Johnny
thing.
Depp's one of those interesting guys, and maybe Fassbender will turn out to be, but I don't think so. That Johnny Depp, it's rare that an alien becomes like a movie star personality.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very rare.
Even somebody like Clooney,
yeah,
who is like one of the greatest movie stars we've ever had, is definitely a human.
Yes.
And not unlike even these people like Johnny Depp, who is arguably a great movie star, but he secretly is an alien.
Without question. I don't even think secretly. I think just it's true. It's an alien thing. And his performance in Pirates of the Caribbean is as astonishing as any other performance you'll see, because you're like, with this text, this whole idea, you're making me believe in this guy. This is amazing.
Right.
Did
you see Black Mass?
I haven't seen it yet, but it looks incredible.
Oh, it's heavy, dude.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great in it.
Yeah, of course he is. I mean, but you're right. But that thing with George Clooney is the perfect example, where George Clooney, whether it's Michael Clayton or it's...
What a great movie that is. No one talks about that fucking movie.
It is amazing.
You know what saddens me about there's movies like that are clearly sort of grown up, sophisticated, intelligent movies. And it really, no one talks about that movie, but it's it's a masterpiece, that movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, more people talk about that movie than talk about others. It's very odd. Some movies feel like they're just posters.
Yeah, no,
now.
definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
They are.
It's like, I won't
go because of a poster.
Oh, that's a poster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Won't go.
It's very strange, but, Clooney's just a phenomenal, presence, and charisma that is unquantifiable, actually.
Yeah, but he loves it. I mean, I think that's the other thing about movie stars versus actors.
Yes,
is that movie stars thrive.
They're good at it.
Yeah.
They're good at the whole thing. Will Smith, Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
I mean, Tom Cruise is a lesson. They should show Tom Cruise on talk shows to actors in drama schools, going, if you become famous, this is how you should be on a talk show.
Not on Oprah specifically, but maybe on other ones.
Yeah, but just look like you're happy to be there.
Right.
That's basically, if you look like you're thrilled to be there, you're halfway through.
Yeah. And do it to a degree that they don't even care if you're hiding things.
Yeah. you just come out and just, this is fantastic, this is great. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think I've always said about Tom Cruise is that what he's really good at is focus and hanging off of things. That you give him something to focus on intensely or something to hang off of, it's great.
I love him, Tom Cruise.
Genuinely.
Genuinely.
I just watched Magnolia again.
Oh, that film. That film is genuinely. I think it might be my favorite movie.
I sort of like. I was sort of hard on it initially, but then I watched it again, and I was like, "Wow!" I didn't even remember seeing the last third of that movie.
Well,
and it's amazing.
The bravery in that film, which is where I think like Paul Thomas Anderson is probably the best film director I think around in recent years.
Yeah.
Is that film's got 2 openings.
Mm-hmm.
The sheer bravery of that movie to then like I don't remember a time I've been as aware that I'm loving something the first time I'm watching it. I remember being in the cinema going, well, I'm loving this film. You know? Well, I'm in. I'm in. The music, dun, the whole thing is this cannot be coincidence. This surely cannot be that. And then when they burst into song, that's the Amy Mann track, and then the frogs falling from the sky, you're like,
what?
You've done it. Yeah. You've done it. You've got this film made in a world in which this is everything you'd ever want to do.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing.
Oh, it's beautiful to hear.
Oh, William H. Macy, Quiz Kid, Donnie Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, come
Philip
on.
Seymour Hoffman, Julianne
Moore is unbelievable in that
Jason
film.
Robards, it's crazy.
Oh, it's wall to wall some of the best performances. John C. Reilly.
Great.
It's also well worth watching there's some outtakes on the DVD where John C. Reilly looks like he's the most fun person to work with on the planet.
Yeah, I bet you he is.
Yeah.
It's so funny because the first guy on IMDb is Pat Healy.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
All right, so you do Martin Gare.
Yes.
And then you do The History Boys, which was a big break.
Well, that was quite a while after that. I did a movie after that with a director called Shane Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with Shane's work. I did a film called 24/7. It's a black and white boxing movie with Bob Hoskins.
Oh, and fucking Hoskins.
Oh, man, incredible. And that film, I managed to get an agent in London. And then I had worked a bit, different TV things, little bits here and there. And then I was in this play called The History Boys, which was a real turning point.
My assistant's sort of like, he was in the original cast. Like, he's a real actor guy.
It was a real... I mean, as plays go,
yeah,
it was, I mean, incredible. And you know, it's Alan Bennett, Nicholas Heitner, who I think is the best theatre director in the world. I really do. And yeah, and it was just a thing which, you know, you sign up for a play for 6 months, and then 3 years later you're still doing it, but you've travelled, you've made a movie of it, and you've travelled to Hong Kong, New Zealand, Australia. And then we finished by doing sort of 6.5 months on Broadway.
Do you think that sort of solidified your sort of place that gave you the?
Well, oddly, it kind of didn't, because I'd done quite a bit of TV work, and I did a film with Mike Leigh called.
How was that?
Amazing.
Which movie was that?
I did a movie called All or Nothing with Mike Leigh.
Like, his movies are just like I one of the great. Sadnesses in my life is that I have not, and I can fix it, is that I haven't kept up with his movies.
Well, this one is particularly dark, and I'm very, very proud of it. I play Timothy Spall and Leslie Manville's son, and it's basically the whole film is set across a weekend on one estate in London, and it's I think there are real moments of beauty in the film. As Sally Hawkins is in the movie.
I'm just trying to figure out if I've seen
Daniel
it.
Mays.
What was it about?
It's set on a council estate in London. And it's basically about the inhabitants of that council estate. It's hard to pinpoint.
What's a council estate?
A council estate is a house where basically the state is you put people up in these high-rise blocks of flats.
Oh, okay.
In quite a rough area of London, and it's just about love and family, really, is what it's actually about. But it's a tough watch. But I had done that, and I'd done the film with Shane, and I'd done a couple of TV things. So when the History Boys happened,
yeah,
and became this unbelievable play, all of the boys, there was eight boys similar age in the film,
yeah,
all coming in with these film scripts under their arm for different roles they're being considered for or offered for.
Yeah,
and I would get like the 2 pages of that script for like the guy who plays a newsagent, or
so you were a punchline,
or like a bubbly judge, in something, and I'd be like, oh, I always thought that I would, okay, and it felt like people at home were saying, "Oh no, we think you're very good. We think you're very good for this. You're really not going to be the star, are you? You know." And so that was when myself and my friend Ruth Jones, who is an unbelievable actress and writer at home, she hadn't written anything at home before this, and nor had I. And we just said, we should. Why don't we write a TV show together? So I had been at a wedding where I sort of came back thinking I don't know that anyone had shown a wedding on television like one I'd actually been to.
Yeah.
And we started talking about maybe writing a show about couples and family, and we wrote this show called Gavin and Stacey, which, to everybody's surprise, it launched on a small cable channel called BBC Three, which not everyone in the UK has. And our first episode launched with like 500,000 viewers, and by the time we ended
That's big, right? That's not
it's not big. It wasn't big then.
Right.
It wasn't small for
now
that channel.
It's huge.
It wasn't small for that channel, but it was kind of fine.
Right.
And then we, when we ended the show, we did like 22 episodes over 3 years. We only do seasons of 6 or 7 episodes.
I love that about British television.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And we, by the time we ended it, we ended it on BBC One, and I think we had like 14 million viewers tuned in for
so
like the last
it was on the air for
episode.
3 years?
Yeah, and it pretty much became like the #1 comedy in the country.
Well, that's amazing, because I don't know the show, because I didn't, I'm not up to speed with British comedy, British television. Like, I'm sad that I don't know who Ronnie Barker is, but I didn't grow up with it.
Sure.
I mean, I know it's available, and I could have done a little more research, but I guess it's just not going to happen for me and you. That
No,
I'm not going to be like, I love that
well, it's
one
a long
episode.
time ago. But people do. I do get occasional people like Kristen Shaw was on the show the other day, and,
Yeah.
and was I'm thrillingly for me, was a big fan of the series.
Well, there's definitely people in my community, in the comedy community, who are huge Anglophiles, like British comedy fans.
Yeah.
But it's sort of fascinating to me, the intimacy of what I picture the BBC's business model to be, and the opportunity they seem to give comedic talent, because there's a lot of people I've talked to in here, like Dylan Moran, and like Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
I've not talked to Ricky Gervais, but it seems that if you have a profound comedy talent and you have an idea, that you'll get a shot.
Well, Ricky and Stephen are the best example, I think, where they made a little short film. Stephen was on, I think Stephen Merchant was on a BBC Young Directors thing while he was also working at the radio station with Ricky and Carl Pilkington, and he made a little, I think like a 5 or 6 minute teaser with this character that Ricky used to do around the place called CD Boss, and then the BBC said, "Oh, will you make a pilot? We'd like to make a pilot." And what's amazing is Ricky and Stephen said, "Well, we'd like to direct it," and the BBC went, "Okay," having no prior experience, and that's where, for me, the BBC are incredible. Like, we made our show with for the BBC through a company called Baby Cow, which is run by Steve Coogan and Henry Normal, and we would take all of our notes from the BBC, or from Henry, or from Steve, would be they would all start with, "This is your show. No one knows this show better than you. So what we're giving you now are not notes, they're suggestions. And if you don't like them, throw them in the bin. And if you do, take them, but it's your show." And so immediately, as a creator of a show, you are so much more open to hearing a network's point of view on your show, as opposed to, "We don't like this on page 3, and this has got to change on page 5, and we also think this character needs more of a thing." You're immediately on a defensive of like, "Whoa, hang on, stop trying to change my show.
Yeah.
What are you doing?" So, and I kind of think that's a place where American networks, in a narrative sense, for narrative programming, could really learn from that, I think.
I don't know what the difference in the business model for how American television was sort of built, towards moving towards syndication or holding viewers in a certain way. A lot of that stuff has fallen away, so you get a lot of these people that you can't even trust.
Yeah.
So I imagine that having the BBC, who trusted Steve Coogan, I imagine, because he had that. What was his famous character?
Well, Alan Partridge.
Yeah.
Well, they just what they do, but even more so than that, like to trust Ricky and Stephen, two guys working at a radio station, to go, yes, we will let you direct, produce, and write this series.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is unheard of, actually.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that freedom creates what I think is one of the greatest sitcoms that's ever been made.
Yeah.
You know, I really do believe.
And the British Office, there's only like 12 episodes, right?
I think there's 12 and a Christmas, and
Right.
sort of 90-minute sort of Christmas special.
I love that. They just and it's sort of like, I guess because, you know, you don't have this grail of 100 episodes making $1 billion, that, you know, you can sort of, you know, limit your expectations, do as many as you think are necessary.
That's what I would often say to friends of mine. I remember telling, I forget who it was saying what Ruth and I earned for Gavin and Stacey, and he nearly fell off his chair at how low it was. He was like, "You're mad. What are you doing?"
An American?
And I said, no. I said, "You're absolutely right." I said, "However, what we lose financially, comparatively,
right.
I always thought we were being paid very, very well."
Well, that's the thing, is like when we started this conversation, I mean, it's nice to earn an honest living,
of course,
for doing what you do.
Yeah, but what really counts is A, you have this creative freedom, which is unheralded. You're making the show that you want to make, and B, it's never going to be pulled off the air. You'll always get to tell your story. Now, granted, come the end of it, you might be telling that story to 4 people, but I can remember when we were writing Gavin and Stacey, and when I wrote the next show I wrote with my friend Matthew Bainton, the show The Wrong Mans, all we would say is, how great would it be if this was just one person's favourite show? If sat round a dinner table somewhere, someone said, "Oh, you know the show I love? Gavin and Stacey." And everyone goes, "I haven't seen it. What is it?" And they go, "No, I love it." That's all we were ever really hoping for. You know, hoping for like awards and, you know, things.
Did you win awards?
We did, yeah.
So you did that sitcom, which was your own. You appeared on a lot of stuff. You've done all the things that one does as a television personality in Britain. And then you do this huge movie, Into the Woods, with Meryl Streep, who must have been amazing to work with.
Phenomenal, yeah.
How was it like being with an alien?
It's just incredible. Yeah. I mean, she is, I've never really worked with anybody quite like it, actually.
There's nobody like it.
Well, also, she, the greatest thing I can say about her, and it's my favourite thing in people, is when she takes her work unbelievably seriously. She is incredibly serious about the work that she does. And she doesn't take herself seriously at all.
Right.
And that, for me, makes for the perfect person to work with. Because I really can't bear... I don't like it when people don't take their work seriously, and the only thing I hate more than that is when people take themselves very seriously.
And if they do both of those...
Oh, it's just the pits. When people think that they're, you know, changing the world.
And they're not putting the work in.
Yeah, but she is astonishing. Yeah, amazing.
Was
just amazing.
Was she nice?
Oh my God, beyond nice. Like, nicer than nice. She's so aware of how you feel when she walks in the room that she just does everything she can to put you at ease in that situation. I love and adore her. Yeah.
So now I'll lay it out here in America. You know, as a comedian and as somebody who talks to people, that, you know, when that spot opened up on the Late Late Show, and they were auditioning people that I knew, I never got the call, but that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But then, you know, out of nowhere, we're all like, who?
Yes, absolutely.
Who the fuck is James Corden?
Of course.
What's that? Yeah. But it was sort of like, it was unprecedented in a way. You know, that process. How did that come about?
I don't even really know.
You don't?
Well, I
mean... You
just
got a call from your agent?
No, I'll tell you how I had come to America, and
And this is sort of off, you know, it's off course for you in a little bit.
I had done a play in New York called One Man, Two Governors, and it was a really great play, a brilliant play, and I had some very nice reviews from it, and I won the Tony Award that year. And I didn't know this, but like Nina Tassler, the president of CBS, and Les Moonves, who's the CEO of CBS, had seen that play, and and were quite determined for me to do something on their network. I didn't know any of this at all. So I had an idea to make a TV show, and I was going to make this TV show. And
Here?
Yeah, and I had an idea for a narrative comedy, basically about heartbreak and how and relationships and things like that. And
so you had a pitch?
Yeah, I had like a few fragments of ideas, and I talked to people, and I was very, very wonderfully I had a feeling. I decided that I was going to make the show for HBO, and I went and I saw Les Moonves and Nina Tasler, and we were talking about this, and then we started talking about late night, and we had some talks about late night, and I said, and I was just saying, I think that Stephen Colbert is the best appointment they could ever make. I said, I think it's amazing. And I said, I think the trick after that show is you've got to sit the other end of the seesaw. I think there is no point having two shows that are similar back to back, like
operating at the same intensity.
Nowhere else in television would you say, from 9 till 10 we're going to have a medical drama, and then 10 till 11 we're going to have another medical drama with the same diseases.
Yeah.
And they just sort of go, well, what would you do? And I was like, well, I think I would bring all the guests out together at the same time and try and make it feel a bit more conversational. I'd sort of try and do a bit more like sketch, silliness, songs, dances, just silly things, like try and make people smile, because Stephen's going to take care of politics, he's going to take care of all of that, and we would just like to be a warm place that would make you smile before you fall asleep. And I wasn't really sort of pitching.
You weren't selling it.
I was just kind of talking about it in general, and then they said, well, I'd like to do it, and I felt very, very reticent about it. I really wasn't. Why? Because I just hadn't considered it as something that I would want to do, and I didn't think it was something that I wanted to do, and I love acting so much. I really do. I love being part of a company. I was enjoying the different things I was getting to do. So I was going to write this show for HBO, and I was going to do a Broadway revival of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, the Stephen Sondheim musical, and I was going to do both of those things. And then the more I thought about it, the more it just became clear to me that there was no way I wouldn't regret this, and that I would much rather
taking the opportunity.
Yeah, that I would rather regret doing something than not doing something.
Sure.
Like, and if it doesn't work, if it's just awful, then I'll just go home, you know, and then I started thinking about it and thinking, well, actually, for my family right now, at this point in our lives, to be around them in the way, like, I actually made the decision in South Africa when I was Skyping my son on my birthday from a prison. No, a prison in Johannesburg. We were filming in a prison in Johannesburg, and I was like, for a TV show I'd written called The Wrong Man's for the BBC, and I was like, this is only going to get harder. Like, my wife was pregnant at the time. I was like, leaving them, and from what I can work out, no one really ends up on a therapist's chair going, my dad was just around too much.
Right.
He gave me too many cuddles at the weekend. And they were so unbelievably open and receptive to making the show whatever we'd like it to be. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll jump.
Yeah.
And we'll see, you know, and I still feel like we're sort of still jumping, really. You know, I'm interested to see where it lands.
Did you feel like that there was a sort of this guy's, who the fuck's he think he is?
I didn't actually. I don't.
Until you sat here?
No, I didn't. I didn't because I guess I never really saw it as that sort of slot. I didn't really see it.
Right.
I always thought, yes, of course, like, if you were going into like the slot that Stephen's just taken on, then I think I would absolutely feel that. But I think I thought, oh, okay, well, I was very conscious of the fact that when we needed to hit the ground running,
right,
that we needed to have a really good first few weeks, like that there was no time to explore and we'll find out what the show is on the air. Like, I felt that very much.
Did you do that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we had. I think our first. I'm immensely proud of our first episode. I feel like it gave us. I feel like if anyone was waiting to say those things, that I feel like in our first episode, that the best we could hope for was, all right. Yeah, okay.
You guys are all right.
All right.
You putting a lot of energy in.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, like the bit we did with Tom Hanks, I feel is like a really strong, solid bit. We did a sketch that I thought was like a pre-taped filmed sketch. And,
yeah. You got good writers. I know those guys.
Yeah, and I was very conscious of wanting to find people who hadn't necessarily written in late night before,
Young guys.
Young guys who would be hungry to make a young and vibrant show that.
Well, it's sort of interesting because you came in with that, that tiredness, that it's very funny because, when you talk about the work early on, when you're on stage or doing that, there's something a little thankless about a daily show.
Yes.
Because there was a big realization I had when I used to appear on Conan a lot, the old show, and now I do this show a lot. But when I go do Conan, which was 4 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year, 5 times a year, I'd get off and I'd be like, all right, where's the party? That feeling of sort of, I did it. And then you just realize just a bunch of fucking people at work.
It's just the same the next day. And that is...
it made me respect them more.
Well, that is the best and worst thing about it. Because the truth is, there is another show tomorrow. So if you do one where you've missed the mark slightly, I thought that idea was going to be there. Just, I didn't really...
Yeah, right.
I don't know what happened. But you go, do you know what? It's gone. There's another one tomorrow.
Right.
Where it's hard is when you go, that was a good show.
Yeah.
Like we had a show last night. Mel Brooks was on the show. I did a sketch with Mel Brooks. I did a stupid dance with Riverdance. And we had a pre-taped bit, which was me and Joe Theismann throwing fast food at each other as a stunt driver from Fast and the Furious drove through a drive-through.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that felt like a good show.
Yeah.
And it's gone now. That's it. It's gone. Like you're like, right, okay.
Yeah. Next show.
Oh, okay, here we go. And that's it. But there's something very gratifying about that, and you just you just got to get your head down and just keep going for it and just keep working. And
is the group format working? Because I did the show and I had a nice time, and I noticed a couple things that stood out for me, having done a lot of those kind of panel shows, is that one, there were not enough dressing rooms for me, and I was put into a weird someone's office.
No, that was not your fault. That was not our fault. That was because I'll tell you why that was. That Wiz Khalifa and Fall Out Boy were performing together
on another show. You were taping
we were pre-taping it for another show, but we didn't have a musical act on your show, and they were very much coming as a collective.
Right.
And Wiz Khalifa did not think that, and just went into your room and went, I'll go in here, and shut the door and lay down, which is not ideal. That's the only time that's ever happened.
Well, I'm glad I had it.
That's the only time that's ever happened.
I'm glad I had a single experience in
you really
someone
did.
else's
and
office.
I promise the next time you come back, you will have
literally.
I
get there. It was funny because I get there. There's this great dressing room. There's food out. There's a party going on, and they're like, no.
You're in Josie's office. I know. I'm really sorry.
They walked me outside.
I'm truly sorry.
No, it's okay.
I really am. It was.
It's fine.
It was so far beyond our control.
Well,
because Wiz is not someone you really just go. He
dude,
doesn't have that. He doesn't have that.
No,
vibe.
I understand. I'm just busting balls. But the thing that, because I'm sort of fascinated with the dynamic of creating not necessarily a panel, but like having more people out there at once without a topic specific show. You don't see that much in America. Like, Politically Incorrect used to do a thing where they'd have 4 people out, but you had things that everyone was commenting on the same thing.
Yeah.
And to generate a genuine conversation in that environment is tricky. And I noticed it was me, Jason Segel, and Carl Reiner. And I think that the wild card was that, and I don't know, I'm just going to ask you. Like, I've interviewed Carl before, and he's obviously amazing, and he's an elder spokesman, and but that's also the thing that you realize once he's out there. It's like you can't really interrupt.
Well, no, you can't, and that's. But then I just find great pleasure in that, and I just think, mostly it's. Well,
does it work in general? Like, are you finding that the guests are playing off each other?
Yes, very much so. Like, very much. And I think guests enjoy. I think lots of guests enjoy the notion of not just a fixed 8 minutes on them.
Spontaneity.
I think actually, oddly, because you would imagine it would be different, but when you think about it, it makes complete sense. I think the people who feel least comfortable, I think, in that environment are comedians, because you are comedians. The very notion of being a stand-up comedian is
solitary.
I talk, you listen.
Yeah.
I'm bringing some stories.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And that is the format of lots of talk shows.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lots of talk shows. Oh, you know, if you're a stand-up, I've got a great thing about supermarkets.
Sure.
So if you could ask me a question about going to the supermarket, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And that is kind of difficult to juggle on our show, because you never quite know where the conversation's going to undulate and move to. The only thing I think is, I think there are 5 other shows where the guests come out at the same time. Come out individually.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it just comes from a place of like, we have to give the show a reason to exist. It is not enough just because there has always been a late show after the late show that there should be.
Yeah.
We've got to give it a reason, and we've got to make it feel and look different.
Yeah.
You know, Reggie in it, you know,
I know Reggie.
Itself is just like a phenomenal presence in that environment, and
I found it good. I found it refreshing, and in like for me as a comic who's done the story format.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard it was going to be me and Jason, who I know, and Carl, who I've interviewed, you know, I wasn't upset at all, and sort of like, how am I going to get this in? I was sort of like, oh, this can be easy.
Well, that's it, and that's the truth of it. That's what most people find is actually, it's a joyous thing where you think, well, actually, if this was, if in fact we took these cameras away and this was a dinner table and we were all eating, this would be joyous. Yeah, this would be great. Like, we had a show with Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Elizabeth Banks, and I've just never had more fun. Just the 3 and we were just chatting. I didn't get through half of the card.
So you lost your. That's great.
I didn't get through half the card.
So you didn't have to be self-conscious.
No, because you go with, okay, we talked about this project, and then we're going to talk about this project later. So actually, so when Lily Tomlin's talking about something and Elizabeth Banks asks a question, and it's not mine, the joy of sitting back and watching that flow is wonderful. And some nights are harder than others, but then that's the case for all talk shows. Yeah. You know?
And how are you easing into the monologue and everything? How are you feeling about it?
I'm finding that, well, again, that's another sort of thing where we try to do something, you know, to not do 15 jokes.
But like just interacting with an audience as James Corden.
I'm enjoying that. We have some really terrific writers who come together, and we just tend to do the monologue about one topic.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is very easy some days and much harder other days. Sure. And that's the truth.
Well, because you're in. Like, if midway through the thing's not working, you're like, oh, boy.
Well, what you can't do is go, in other news,
right.
Donald Trump said, you know, the idea
Can't
of doing...
bail.
Yeah, but I feel we've had some really good ones. We've had some ones that I'd like to do better. But what I'm realising is I'm finding it a lot easier to do those monologues and things when they are about something of any substance.
Sure.
And I think at the start we thought, our show, we'll just do stories about Facebook.
Yeah.
You know? And actually what you realise is if it's about something, it doesn't have to be funny all the time.
Yeah,
if you're doing it about Kim Davis and her coming out of jail and still refusing to issue gay marriage certificates and the prospect of her going back into prison, that's a topic where you go, well, actually, regardless of the jokes, this is an interesting thing to talk about. And that's where I hope that our show, over the next 6 months, we could find a little more substance and depth in that. It's the thing I've realised that I've enjoyed doing, which I think at first I thought the show would just be like atmosphere but and I think we can retain elements of that, but at the same time I would very much love the show to find a greater sense of depth in the places where it's possible to.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what's your contract for?
Well, 5 years, I think.
Oh yeah, so you're in.
Yeah, I mean, they can sack me. You
Right.
know what I mean? They can sack me at any point.
Right.
But I don't think I can leave. So
You better like it.
yeah, there
Better
is
make
that.
the best of it.
Yeah, well, and we're going to try to, and I really am finding more and more out about it every day. I mean, you know, it's kind of it's tough, you know, to just come in, just sight unseen.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there's something very freeing about that.
Sure. So now, like, to wrap up, tell me about, like, I've had a couple of nights in here, and you're an officer of the Order of the British Empire.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I don't. Well, it means that you are given. It's below a knight. You're not
Sure.
a sir.
Yeah. Are you a duke?
No, I don't even know if anyone's a duke anymore. I don't know, but
You're an OBE.
an OBE, yes, which isn't the
Who
order.
gives that to you?
Well, it's issued by the Queen.
But you don't get to hang out with her.
I didn't get mine from the Queen. I got mine from Princess Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And you, yeah,
Was it exciting?
it's really exciting for your parents.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really, no. I'm saying, like, genuinely, your first thing is, I don't deserve this. I should say no to this. This
Yeah.
is not something. Yeah, you should say, there are so many, particularly growing up in the household of two social workers,
Yeah.
of thinking, well, this is something that
Yeah.
being given this for services to drama is not so. But however, then you go, well,
That's
actually,
funny because that's exactly what a social worker does.
yes,
Services
yeah,
to
it's drama. You're absolutely right. Whereas actually, the truth is, you know, then you think, well, you owe it to my you know, it was for my mum and dad going to Buckingham Palace, sitting there, name read out, giving this thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful, lovely thing. Yeah.
And they loved it. They
Of course, it's great. We went for dinner, we went for lunch, we had champagne. It was just,
Oh, well, that's
it was lovely, and that is, yeah. That's what
sweet.
that is.